I must begin by expressing my not only profound appreciation to the initiative taken by Prime Minister of Vietnam, Pham Minh Chinh, but also to be expressing my personal encounter with Vietnam. I grew up in the generation, unlike Prime Minister Duc Son, who's much younger, at the height of the struggle for liberation of Vietnam. And we were very supportive. We were that generation that kept on with that slogan, Ho, 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 Ho Chi Minh. We were in that generation that was so familiar with the meaning of freedom, anti-imperialism, human dignity, and that spread all over the region, the sentiment and support and appreciation, love and affection for the indomitable spirit and struggle of the Vietnamese people. And I've said to Prime Minister that in the next visit, I would love to go to Dien Bien Phu, because that's a symbol of the brilliance, guerrilla warfare and the strategy of a relatively small military force defeating the colonial giant. Unfortunately, I'm not able to make it this time because Malaysian Parliament is in session, and I don't want to give an opportunity for the opposition to question that the Prime Minister wants to spend his time abroad. Anyway, thank you again. So I must, I don't need to apologize, but at least to appeal to you to bear with me that every time I get to Vietnam, I get this sort of a spirit of this new vigor, vitality. And congratulations, Prime Minister. You have even surpassed Malaysia in terms of your phenomenal growth of 7% and great strides. And you started actually the much lower threshold. We were much independent much earlier. We started all these semiconductors and industrialization much earlier. But in a short span, Vietnam has shown your relentless effort in economic endeavors, food security, technology, industrialization, and able to navigate first-class diplomatic relations. I mentioned to him, although I technically is in this position as chairman of ASEAN, but I think diplomatic skills I have to learn from Pham Minh Chinh. So thank you also to the Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam for convening the second series of ASEAN Future Forum. Vietnam is again, as I said, a remarkable success story that showcases how a country's initial poverty is no stumbling to wealth creation and economic growth. Correct policy prescription, strong in governance and anti-corruption measures to promote a progressive and modern economy. And we have seen this remarkable success in terms of poverty eradication and uplifting the welfare of the masses. But we are now in the geopolitical inflection point. Various global disruptions that we have experienced in the last decade are the new normal, highlighting the fragility of the global order and existing structures that underpin it. That's precisely the reason why such forums are not only relevant but very critical to get the great minds in the region to reflect and share their views. Now, divergence may be economic, historical, ideological, security-driven. Some have seized on by populists for their own ends. Many are deeply sobering and have brought forth dire consequential effects, not only to regional peace and prosperity, but also the well-being of the people of Southeast Asia. In this era of division and rivalry, ASEAN must shine as a beacon of hope, fostering a sustainable, harmonious, and economically dynamic region. I've said it in my encounters throughout the world. And my dear friend, Ramos Horta, we, at least between Malaysia and Vietnam and many of our friends, would certainly hope to welcome you this year as a full member of ASEAN. We often hear calls for ASEAN to strengthen and reinforce its centrality, to continue exercising its agency and strategic autonomy. However, ASEAN must always bear in mind that centrality is not a right, but a privilege that has to be earned and re-earned in the context of changing contingencies. Our centrality counts for little when there's no cohesion among member states, when we let internal differences and priorities divide us. That's why I reiterate, we are very fortunate because we are in the region which is the most peaceful in the world. And we're the region which is fastest growing economy in the world. And our relations between leaders, like my personal relations with Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh, and many of my colleagues in Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Brunei, for example, are outstanding. We have these direct exchanges, sometimes a bit too much, particularly from Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh. He harasses me a bit too much, but that is the price of a strong bond of relationship and brotherhood. So I thank you very much, Prime Minister. I told him we are in the midst of a very important debate in Parliament. I appealed to him, I said, Parliament is in full session and towards the end. But he said, no, Anwar, you are chairman of ASEAN, you are my friend and brother, you have to come. So he just instructs friends like that. What choice do I have? So thank you. But that reflects that sort of comradeship which I think, without exaggeration, is unrivaled elsewhere as a regional grouping, based on working together and trust and wanting to enrich one another. We discussed there are issues and areas where Vietnam excel, and some areas that we excel. And our decision was to share. We talk about Timor-Leste, which comes, much later. And we say, look, we will work together and assist them, facilitate the entry, accelerate the process. And that is the spirit, I think, that is a bond that which we will shape, and we say, inshallah, God willing, the future of ASEAN. That's why we say no country should be left behind. When we talk about energy transition, we talk about digitalization, we are talking about the ASEAN community. While raising the regional floor on economic development is vital, we must also strive to elevate the developmental ceiling of our region. Building a robust and resilient supply chain ecosystem within the region is imperative to withstand looming geostrategic challenges. Markets in developed nations are increasingly prioritizing sustainability, and ASEAN must adapt to such trends to maintain its relevance in global trade. Malaysia, guided by the Malaysia Madani framework, stands ready to work together for change, for renewed efforts in green investments ranging from regenerative agriculture, solar energy, electric vehicles, and green infrastructure. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as we advance ASEAN's agenda in this new age of uncertainty, we must also be vigilant to possible rising geopolitical risks that could impact ASEAN's trajectory. Now, the ongoing trade tensions between United States and China, including the recent tariffs imposed by Washington and its counter-tariffs by those on the receiving end, present both as opportunities and challenges. But as a region, learning from your experience in Vietnam, we will engage, like the huge trade with Vietnam with the United States. Malaysia still have largest investments from the United States. China is a very important neighbor, ally in the region. So we have to navigate. We in ASEAN have agreed that in late May, we'll have ASEAN Gulf Council, GCC, plus China. But prior to that, the foreign ministers have agreed that ASEAN should immediately engage with the United States and calling for an ASEAN-United States summit. So we take a very pragmatic view to engage and trade and treat countries, major, big countries, the superpowers, and the smaller countries as our partners in this endeavor. Because we realize that over-independence in any one market or industry would leave us vulnerable to external attacks. Now, given the present and future realities that we face, we have adopted the theme for ASEAN, inclusivity and sustainability, with a deliberate view towards a future-oriented network. It is a theme that finds great resonance with this conference and reflects a pivotal moment in history for both ASEAN and the world at large, a moment marked by profound uncertainty and rapid change. It is also deeply significant as ASEAN forges ahead into an era where solidarity and collaboration are paramount in addressing shared challenges and harnessing emerging opportunities. I believe that ASEAN stands on the precipice of renewal and transformation, engaging within the region and outside, and more so. Duxon, I can assure you that our attitude towards New Zealand is a great friend. Therefore, you are much welcome. This is underpinned by our shared values on progress, prosperity, and justice. We are no longer a bystander in global affairs, but a dynamic and influential force driving positive change. And I could not agree more with Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh when he described that ASEAN is a region, to quote you, incredible vitality. Thank you.